Sheduer Sanders, all of a sudden, and I know you have him still locked in as going to number 2 to Cleveland, but he is rapidly, reportedly, dropping down draft boards. And for everything that I've heard and read and listened to, it sounds like, in my opinion at least, and again, it could be all smokescreen, but that your Cleveland Browns have absolutely no interest in Sheduer Sanders.
Okay.
And from everything that I have read, heard, and seen, it sounds like the Giants have moved on from the idea of taking Sheduer Sanders. It sounds like to me at this point, he's either going number 9 to the Saints or he's going to fall right in the lap of the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 21.
Which we'll see if that happens. There might be teams that try trade back in.
Cleveland could be one of those. I'm not denying that, but it sounds like for sure at 2 to me, he's off the board. That's from everything I've heard.
So when you said I have him locked in at number 2, you're referencing our mock draft that we're working on for Voltage Live. And the reason I had the Browns taking him at number 2 is because of their history. Who did they take number 22 overall back in 2014? Oh, I don't know. The Heisman Trophy winner out of Texas A&M, Johnny Football. Who did they take number 1 overall out of Oklahoma? The Heisman Trophy winner, Baker Mayfield. So because of that history, I was like, okay, the Browns would have the same ownership that drafted Baker, that drafted Johnny. It feels like that's a Browns type of pick, if you get what I mean.
Well, by the way, you mentioned that the last 2 picks they made there were both Heisman Trophy winners. The other guy this year would be a Heisman Trophy winner in Travis Hunter.
Yes, but what I'm specifically trying to get at more so there is not that they're Heisman Trophy winners, but Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel were these high-profile quarterbacks for their own reasons, different from Sheduer Sanders. I get it, but they were high-profile. Like people knew about them off the football field. Do you kind of
get much Baker? I would argue.
Okay. But do you kind of get where I'm going with that overall?
For sure. I think Baker was more known for the police video that went out right before the draft than him being a popular college football player.
Okay. I would say Baker was more so his on-field antics.
I think Travis Hunter is personally more known right now than Sheduer Sanders. That's just me.
But my point, though, is because Sheduer is Dion's boy and all that, it feels like a Browns pick because of their history by drafting Baker and Johnny Manziel. Again, maybe that's just me making up a connection in my head that's not really there.
I was with you until the leaks started coming out. And again, they could be smokescreen. It could be a perfect decoy play by the Browns to make sure the Giants think that they have no chance of going to get Sheduer. But the fact that they, met with Travis Hunter, they met with Abdul Carter, they met with Jalen Milroe, they met with Jackson Dart. I think it tells you they're not going Sheduer at least at 2.
Yeah. It would be interesting if Sheduer were to go to New Orleans. I think that would be, honestly, that might be the best fit for him. Because think about that division. Atlanta is a dome team. New Orleans is a dome team. You generally get good weather in Carolina. You generally get good weather in Tampa Bay. I think
so here's the thing, and I get the logic behind it, and Kellen Moore is just now there as the new head coach. He's an offensive mind, obviously the offensive coordinator of my 2024 Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles team. But the Saints are in such salary cap hell. They're such a disaster They need a complete rebuild everywhere, including the quarterback position, and they just re-upped Derek Carr. That I don't know. It's like to me, Alvin Kamara is a very old, aging running back. Chris Olave is a decent receiver who I like, and Raheem Shaheed's a decent deep threat. But besides that, what else do you have to work with? I mean, I don't think New Orleans, from a football perspective, outside of their division, in terms of their roster, is not very good at all, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, their roster's horrible. I
Well,
got
that's my point. Is I don't think Sheduer solves their issues because Sheduer was running for his life in college. What do you think he's going to do in New Orleans behind that offensive line?
yeah. I don't know if Pittsburgh's offensive line is much better though.
They're not, but and I have no idea what the hell they're doing because I thought last night one Aaron Rodgers was going to show up in Pittsburgh for Pat McAfee's big night out and announce that he was going to become a Pittsburgh Steeler. That did not happen. So now I think Aaron just sitting and waiting to see what these teams do in the draft, probably in a dark room smoking ayahuasca.
I think he's still hoping the Vikings come back to him.
And I doubt they will, and they should not. They have a quarterback on a rookie contract. Unless they know something about JJ McCarthy's knee, I'm not even talking about the fact that they see him in practice and maybe they don't like what they see out of him from a football standpoint. If they see something in his knee where it's like he's not medically cleared or he's not as healthy as we think, then you pivot. But I doubt that they come crawling back to Aaron Rodgers.
So I think Sheduer would work in Pittsburgh? It would be interesting. I don't know though. How would he gel with Mike Tomlin?
Oh, I think those two would get along great.
I have some questions about that. I'm not sure.
What are you not sure about? Because I think Tomlin sees Sheduer as a tough-minded leader, definitely respects his football background, his football pedigree. And I think Sheduer, Mike Tomlin coaches very much the way Deion Sanders coaches. I think Sheduer will get used to tough coaching, and I think that's what he embraces.
I look at how Mike Tomlin coaches his teams, and like
very tough-minded defense, which is what Sheduer was used to in Colorado.
Yeah, but Tomlin seems to take that to another level. I'm not quite sure, and I get what you're saying about Sheduer, but with those personalities around him, DK, George Pickens, not quite sure. I'm like this about him with Pittsburgh.
I still think his best fit is Las Vegas, but it sounds like they're going after Ashton Gentry.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting if they get Ashton Gentry to go alongside Geno and Brock Bowers.
They probably think they can compete in that division, as odd and as weird as it sounds.
Yeah. Because maybe the Chiefs have taken a step back, but the Chargers, I don't think are going there.
I ain't saying that until I actually see it on the field. I'm sorry. I think Kansas City's going to still be Kansas City. Who, I don't know how they have the third best odds to win the conference this year right now. They are behind Baltimore and they are behind Buffalo. I'm sorry. Until somebody tells me the Kansas City Chiefs are not in the Super Bowl, I don't believe you.
I mean, they did just get smashed by your Eagles.
They did, but you know what? Can Buffalo beat them? No. Can Baltimore beat them? No. Until you beat them, show me you can beat them. I mean, Buffalo's faced them, 4 straight years in the playoffs?
Yeah. I don't know where Sheduer is going. There's a chance. There's possibly a chance if New Orleans doesn't take him and Pittsburgh doesn't take him. I think there's a chance Sheduer falls out of the first round.
I will say this. If he's there at 21, there's no way Pittsburgh does not take him.
Yeah, actually, now that you say it, they lost Russell Wilson to the Giants. They lost Justin Fields to the Jets. They're in quarterback hell.
Their only quarterback currently on their roster is Mason Rudolph.
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
So unless they have a handwritten agreement somewhere by Aaron Rodgers and they don't take a quarterback, which I think even if they still have Aaron and they know they're going to get Aaron, they still would take Sheduer and let him sit behind Aaron.
You really want Sheduer to learn from Aaron Rodgers?
Jordan Love learned from Aaron Rodgers, and you love Jordan Love.
That part is true. This is true. I just don't know if I want Aaron Rodgers' antics rubbing off on Sheduer.
Well, how about this? It was reported actually today by Ken Carman over at 92.3 that the Browns not only worked out Jalen Milroe, but Ken said that his source told him Kevin Stefanski's in love. Now, again, it could be all smoke screen. We don't know. But the Browns' new offensive coordinator is Tommy Rees, who was Jalen Milroe's offensive coordinator during Jalen Milroe's best year at Alabama. I think there is a world where the Browns, I don't even know if they would have to move up. I think they could stay at 33, which is essentially like a first-round pick, though you only get a 4-year deal. Maybe if you want the 5th-year option and pay him a little bit more money, maybe you trade up one spot with my Philadelphia Eagles at 32, and Jalen Milroe sits behind a Kirk Cousins, who they would bring in after the draft, and that's your Browns quarterback room of the future.
My only thing is, you said Tommy Rees was his offensive coordinator during his best years at Alabama, but would Kevin Stefanski be willing to give up play calling?
Well, no, it's not that, but Rees will work with Milroe. Most of the OCs that don't call plays, I don't think people have understood this. I think I've said this a couple of times on the show. Even if you're an OC that doesn't call plays, you are still involved in the game plan and you are running the drills and the coaching during the week.
Yeah, but if Milroe had that strong of a connection with Tommy Rees, I'd rather him be the one calling the plays because Milroe would be comfortable with them. They would know right away what type of plays Milroe likes and what he doesn't like, what his strengths are. This has been part of my problem with the Browns for years. Sorry, I'm about to launch on a rant.
I know. Here you go.
Is whether they draft a quarterback, whether they trade for a quarterback, sign a quarterback through free agency, instead of looking at what the quarterback's strengths and weaknesses are and what they did, what game plan worked in college, they just say, here's our offense, we're sticking you in it. And it's like, that doesn't work. I know it didn't ultimately pan out between Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee Titans, but it's the example I keep coming back to. Because from what I saw, the Titans looked at what Marcus Mariota did well while he was with the Oregon Ducks, and they tried to construct an offense that fit his skill set. And while he was there, I liked what I saw from him with the Titans for the most part.
Well, I disagree because he never even got him to the AFC Championship game. I mean,
but there's other countless examples.
They won one playoff game during his tenure? I mean, Marcus Mariota, for the most part, is seen as a bust.
Okay, so maybe Marcus Mariota isn't the greatest example, but it's the one I always come back to for some reason.
Well, let me tell you this. I don't know if I've told you this on the air or not, but I see Jalen Milroe. Maybe it's his hair. Maybe it's the fact he went to Alabama. I don't know.
Jalen Hurts.
I literally see Jalen Hurts. I think that in the right, but I see a little Lamar Jackson in him too, by the way. I think he is more Jalen Hurts from the pocket and maybe a little more Lamar with his elusiveness outside the pocket. I think that in the right situation, and if he sits for a year and he gets behind a good offensive line, which who knows, the Browns may be able to rebuild their offensive line this year in the draft. I think Jalen Milroe can be a very good NFL quarterback. I'm one of those people that are more higher on Milroe than others. I don't know if the Browns are the right situation for him. I do know this. It'd be very interesting and it would be very against what Kevin Stefanski has typically ran in his offense, which has been a bootleg drop back passer. But maybe it's what he was looking for in Watson was more of a mobile quarterback. Maybe that's why they went after Watson. Obviously, it didn't work out. I can tell you this, I don't think Milroe can start right away. And I think he has to sit for at least half the year, if not a full year.
Yeah. If the Browns do that, I don't know if they would trade for Kirk Cousins necessarily. And
they would. If they draft Milroe, they're definitely getting Kirk Cousins.
And it's weird. I don't know if Kirk would want to be put in another Falcons type situation, for lack of a better term.
Well, I think you tell Kirk, as long as you play well, you be the starter. It would be like the Atlanta situation where if he gets benched, it would be his fault.
Which, by the way, the Falcons excuse the pun, but they took flight once Penix became the quarterback.
Well, absolutely, because Kirk Cousins was not good at the end of last year. How many times have I said it? Kirk Cousins is not the answer. The Browns should not sign Kirk Cousins, but I'm saying they are going to sign Kirk Cousins.
Okay. You're saying they should do it out of necessity, not because they want to.
Well, I don't think they should. I was saying I thought your game plan should have been you roll with Jameis Winston and you tank and you don't draft a quarterback this year, because I'm not in love with any of these guys. But the Browns are so desperate, they're going to take a quarterback. And so if you're going to do that, Kenny Pickett's not your answer. And you got to sell tickets. So in order to sell tickets, you got to at least get some name in there. And Aaron Rodgers wouldn't come to Cleveland, and Kirk's the only guy left.
Yeah, that is true. I don't know what to make of the Browns. I really don't. They got to go against the AFC East this year, the NFC North. They host San Francisco. They'll be at the Raiders. And they host Tennessee. I don't know. Maybe 5-12 for them. Something like that.
Sounds like it's going to be a long year for the Ugger to the Max YouTube channel and the video collaborations over there.
I can trust it. I'm already preparing for it. And yet the Browns are like, yes, we want to build a new stadium. Yay!